This is one of the most interesting and powerful near-death experiences I have heard about. In this video, you'll hear about a woman's spiritual trips on Earth, a trip to heaven where she was welcomed by loved ones and received unique messages from God, miraculous experiences after her return to Earth, and a mysterious prophecy given to her by a possible angel that you don't want to miss. November 4th, 2000 began as a normal day in the life of Margarita Faray. She had been running errands that morning. When she got home, she developed a severe headache. She walked over to her sister's house, who lived nearby, and told her about the unbearable pain she was feeling. Margarita's body became weak and she fell to the ground. Her sister took her to the nearest hospital. Upon arriving, a doctor asked Margarita many questions. He wanted to know what she had done, as if it was her fault that she was in this situation. Her family proceeded to explain that she had not done anything or taken anything to cause this terrible headache. After performing a brain scan, the doctors transferred her to neurosurgery. Margarita was having a stroke. The doctor who interpreted the scan results told her family to make funeral arrangements because she wasn't going to make it past the night. Margarita was listening to these conversations. She was in pain, weak, and had trouble speaking, but she could hear what was going on around her. It was at that moment that she felt something leave her body. She felt confused, and the next thing she knew, her soul was standing right next to her body. She says her soul and body looked very similar. "I'm dead," she thought to herself, but she couldn't understand how she was standing but also looking at herself on the bed. It was all very confusing to her. Margarita's soul continued to go in and out of her body for about 15 days. These were the days that she was in critical condition. She remembers leaving her body and finding herself at family gatherings and parties relatives were attending. When she tried to communicate with them, they couldn't hear her, so Margarita would get upset and would go back into her body. Once back in her body, she would explain to her mother, who spent a lot of time with her in the hospital, that she had gone to these places and that everyone just ignored her. Confused, her mother would tell her that that couldn't be because she hadn't left the hospital. On one occasion, Margarita witnessed a baptism celebration where she saw some of her friends and her husband. Margarita couldn't believe her husband was at this party. How could he be out here having a good time while she was in the hospital? Later on, Margarita was told that her mother had encouraged him to go to this party to relieve some stress. Her next spiritual trip was to Huasco, a city in Chile. There, she saw two people she did not know, a mother and daughter. While listening to their conversation, she heard the daughter say, "Mother, I want to meet my father. I want him to know he's going to be a grandpa." The mother told her that she didn't know where to find him. She had lost contact with him a long time ago. "Give me his name. I'll look for him," the daughter said. Margarita recognized the name. It was someone she knew. At this moment, she disappeared and appeared back in the hospital. When she was back in her body, she told her mother, "Tell this man to come inside. I have something to tell him. I need to tell him two people are looking for him." "He hasn't come. He's not here," her mother said. "Yes, he is. I can see him," Margarita replied. During this time, she was also having many visions, so she was aware that the man had arrived at the hospital. Her mother left the room to look for him, and did in fact find the man. When he came in and asked Margarita how she was doing, she told him, "Congratulations, you're going to be a grandpa." The man was confused. "You have a daughter in Huasco. You're going to be a grandpa." Isn't this incredible? Margarita's soul came out of her body to go listen to a conversation between two people that she doesn't even know, then went back to the hospital where the man just happened to arrive moments later. And the story only gets better from here. On about day 15 of her hospital stay, Margarita's soul left her body once again. But not to travel to a place on Earth like in the previous days. This time, her soul elevated and she found herself in a place where there was a lot of fog. She saw a light and began walking towards it. A couple of steps before reaching the light, 3 people appeared in front of her. Her grandfather, a neighbor, and her cousin. Her cousin told her, "Margarita, this is heaven. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. I'm waiting for Gloria. The Lord sent for her. In 10 days she has to be here." Gloria was the sister-in-law of Margarita's father. "But why are you telling me this? Why are you waiting for her?" Margarita asked. "The Lord sent for her, like I said. She has to be here in 10 days," her cousin repeated. "Tell everyone we're okay here. Tell them not to worry. There's so much peace here, pure peace," he continued. Margarita says that all 3 of them looked just like they did on Earth. They just don't get older. Her grandfather motioned with his hand to come inside so that she could meet her grandmother, who passed away before Margarita was born. "I'll come later. I have things to do," Margarita told him. Behind the 3 men was an open door, and Margarita could see many people in white robes walking around. The peace and energy that radiated out of that door was unlike anything she has ever felt on Earth. Then Margarita began to travel back to Earth, and as she did, she heard a voice say, "Go to your world. It is not your time yet, and tell the Earth that everything happens if I want, to be thankful for every step they take, to look up at heaven and thank me." It was a powerful voice, one that emitted peace, tranquility, and safety. Margarita looked around to see where this voice was coming from. She could only see him from the neck down. He was wearing a beautiful, radiant white robe. Margarita wanted to ask questions. She wanted to know why she was being told all of this. Then she heard the voice say, "Live your moment. Don't try to figure out more. Little by little, you will understand what you will need to do. You will go around the world telling my testimony, which I made you experience. In your hands, you will have the gift of healing. But the one who doesn't believe, you will not be able to do anything for them. You will have a daughter. She will be a blessing." He also told Margarita that death shouldn't be mourned. He told her about problems she would encounter in life, but that in his name, she was going to be victorious. Holy be his name. Suddenly, Margarita's soul entered her body, which was in a lot of pain. She began to breathe and saw that the monitors that were connected to her began to stabilize. She heard a doctor say, "The patient is coming back." Margarita remained in the hospital until December 22nd. Before leaving, one of the doctors told her and her husband not to plan on having more kids. They had a 4-year-old son at the time, because Margarita was not medically able to have more children. Remember that man Margarita told was going to be a grandfather? He did end up becoming a grandfather. Remember Gloria? She ended up passing away within 10 days of Margarita's trip to heaven, just as her cousin told her. It's interesting how Gloria was not sick. They didn't expect her to pass away soon, but she did because God had already sent someone to look for her. It was her time to go. Sometimes someone passes away and we feel guilty because we feel like we could have done something to prevent it. But when it's their time to go, it's their time to go. And God calls them home. And our loved ones are there waiting for us to arrive. Something else that came to pass was the birth of Margarita's baby, which happened 3 years after her experience. It was a girl, just as God told her. Praise God. When God has a plan for your life, He makes it happen, no matter how impossible it seems to us. Remember how God told Margarita that she was going to receive the gift of healing? Well, one day when Margarita was telling a neighbor about her testimony, the neighbor told her that she wondered why God didn't allow her to have a baby. "Who told you you can't have a baby?" Margarita asked her. "The doctor," she answered. "What's impossible with man is possible with God," Margarita told her. Then Margarita heard a voice say, "You give her a date." "I'll give you a date," Margarita told the woman, "but you must believe. The Lord is cleaning your organs and preparing your baby because in less than 1 year, you will be expecting." The woman got goosebumps. Less than 3 months later, the woman told Margarita she was expecting. One night, Margarita was having a conversation with one of her cousins, who asked her if she could go pray for his mother, who had been very ill at the hospital for about a month. They decided it was probably better to pray for God to take her home. Margarita prayed for her, and that following morning at around 5 a.m., she passed away. You won't believe what happened next. Around the end of September 2020, Margarita had a dream where a man came to her house and asked her, "Do you know Margarita Faray?" "Yes, that's me," Margarita said. "I was sent to speak to you. You have to say that there are 3 years left, and no more," said the man. "But 3 more years for what?" Margarita asked him. "I don't know," he said. "I don't know, but that's what you have to say, that there are 3 years left, and no more." Could this be an angel sent by God to deliver this message to her? And if so, what did the message mean? Why was it incomplete? What will happen 3 years from that date? Margarita's message to the world is the same message God told her to share. Everything happens if God wants. Be thankful for every step you take. Look up at heaven and thank Him.